Hi, my name is Brian and I'm here to show you how to make some Scottish tablet. Something that's pretty tricky to do. First made it when I was young with my mum and I modified the recipe a bit to make it easier to do, and this is what I'm going to show you. Why am I showing you? Well, I am doing this because I'm making some tablet for favours for Kirsty and Alan's wedding next Friday, so congratulations to them and hope your day goes well. And I thought I would show you how to do it for future use. So this is the recipe I'm using, slightly modified, and it comes out of a book that used to belong to my grandmother. You'll see it's slightly old and well used, but so Swiss milk tablet, 2 pounds of sugar, just granulated sugar, quarter pound of butter, a tin of Swiss milk, 2 teaspoons of vanilla essence, and a quarter of a pint of milk. I use semi-skimmed, but full fat's fine as well. The other thing that I change is I also add quarter of a pint of water, which you'll see why in a minute. So preparation is everything. So first thing in a pan, you've got the butter, the milk and the condensed milk. If you're wondering what condensed milk is, it's this stuff here from Nestle that I use. Nice and sweet and sticky. Vanilla essence goes in later. And 2 pounds of sugar. One of the key thing about making tablet is the size of the pan. As big as you can, without being too big, because you'll see later during the process it really bubbles up and you need a lot of space to save it going over the top, which I have done quite often in the past. So some of the other things you might need, a jug to measure out the hot water, which I'm just going to use, wooden spoon, quite a long handle because it saves you getting splashed with hot sugar, and you can use a sugar thermometer like the one I've got here. That makes it slightly easier. I've also done it using one of these electronic probe thermometer things and it works as well. But you can also just do it visually. And a knife with a smooth edge, and I'll show you why that comes in handy as well. Apart from that, I've got a Swiss roll tin, lightly greased, just to help it come off later on. And that's us ready to go. So I've got quarter pint of boiling water and I've got 2 pounds of sugar in a pan, and add the boiling water to the sugar and turn on the heat. You'll see I use gas. Personally I prefer gas because it's easier to control on and off. And what you're trying to do here is really just trying to get as much of the sugar melted into the water. Doesn't take too long to do. Also the heat underneath the sugar will help to start melt it as well. Just want to get to a stage where there's no dry sugar. You'll probably maybe not hear it as much as anything, but just want to make sure there's no big lumps of dry sugar. It's slightly runny, and this is just so that when we start to leave it to boil and come up to temperature, it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan too much. So you'll see it's getting there now. See the spoon's running through it quite smoothly, but nothing's really sticking to the bottom of the pan, and you want to just try and make sure nothing's sticking to the bottom of the pan. Now, at that stage, you use the same wooden spoon into the milk mixture. This is where the smooth edge knife comes in, and what you do is you just scrape around the edge to take the excess sugar away from the edge. And what that does is it just helps the sugar, I think, avoid crystallising, which is what you're trying to do, is avoid getting graininess. So, size of a ring I'm on, gas cooker, not too hot, so you don't want it to burn really quick, but it doesn't matter heat wise. And what you're trying to do is bring this up to about 118 degrees. At the same time, you can put on the milk mixture and melt the butter. Again, you need to keep stirring it because potentially it can stick to the bottom and burn. So I'll come back in a minute when this is melted. So I thought I'd better give you some timing wise. This is 8:05 in the evening, and that's me just sort of starting to melt the butter, milk and condensed milk, and the sugar just started in the pan as I showed you a minute ago. Probably should have showed you the time to start with, but hey ho. So you'll see sugar starts to boil around the edges, and you'll see it kind of goes through different stages, and this is where you can just tell by looking the kind of temperatures that it's getting to, and I'll show you the thermometer later. Meanwhile, just keep stirring. This is my cable in the way from the mic. Just keep stirring the butter to get it melted. The main thing with making tablet is you really can't walk away from it. You need to keep an eye on it at all times, and you'll see why later as well. So only a couple of minutes on, and you'll see that the butter's starting to melt. It's fine, just keep stirring it. And one thing I noticed is I'm not stirring in any way the sugar. I'm just leaving it to bubble. It may seem a bit, oh, I need to stir it, but no, don't. The last thing you want to do is stir it. You'll see it starting to bubble all around, and the sugar's starting to melt all over. The patch in the middle will soon go as well. So just persevere. Sometimes it can seem a bit odd, but it does work. So a couple more minutes on, and you'll see the butter's now melted. And again, you need to keep an eye on this so that it doesn't start to boil and overflow. And you'll see the sugar, so mostly starting melting in the top, and the difference that you'll see a change in, so the top's now all fluid and bubbly. It's got a few more degrees to go yet, and really this is getting the sugar, I think the science behind it is getting the sugar past the stage where it would then crystallise again. So what we'll start to do is you'll start to see it forming almost a slight crustiness on top, so the bubbles become less obvious. That's us getting towards the right temperature when that happens. Because this has got milk in it, once it gets to boiling, it really gets fairly vigorous and boils. It doesn't need to be brought to the boil, but it just kind of brought up to that temperature where it's nearly boiling. So sugar. I'm going to use this just to show you the kind of temperature we're getting up to. It's easier to show on the screen. So just an electronic probe. Well, you get them fairly cheap online. And the sugar, you'll see, it should be up probably about 110, 112, something like that at the moment, looking at the top of it. Good guess maybe. Oh, I'm getting there. So this kind of reacts a bit sometimes when it gets too hot and steamy. 114, 115, 117. So that's the kind of temperature we're looking for. So if you turn the heat down on this, all the way down or off even is fine, and you'll see you've got this mixture just about to come to the boil, and that's fine. Next bit is kind of really exciting bit, and this is the bit that's going to be pretty tricky to do while holding an iPhone. So let's just see how we get on. Of course, you kind of need to pour and stir all at the same time. Right. Okay, I kind of needed an extra hand. I didn't have an extra hand, so what I've done is I've poured some of the mixture in, and you'll see it just goes really bubbly, really violently bubbly, which is fine, what you want. And what you want to do is you want to stir to see any graininess, nothing sticking to the bottom, making sure that that's all fine. And then what you can do is you can add the rest in, and you'll see this time it just goes kind of mad in terms of bubbly, which is fine. It's okay. All you're really doing is bringing the two mixtures together, and because we had a big pan, we're fine. Really important to try and make sure that nothing's sticking to the bottom. It's worth taking the extra effort, because then if it burns, you just get burnt sugar in your tablet. So that's fine. So turn the heat back up a bit, and again at this stage, reasonably gentle heat. It doesn't actually take that much to bring it back to the boil. You'll see in a minute. So again, pan size, you can see, looks like the pan's way too big, but you'll see in a minute as to why we need a big pan. I think just having used different size pans and stuff in the past, then I think using a pan this size also makes it go a bit quicker. So you'll see just gentle stirring. Main thing to watch out for is splashing at this stage, because you've got hot sugar, which is over 100 degrees. So if you do splash yourself, it's kind of sore, burns. So just getting the wee sugar granules off the side, and you'll see already just how much it's rising up the pan, and that's fine. Because the pan's so big, then I don't have a problem, and I know I've got plenty of space. If you use a small pan, it can start to get to the top and you get a bit nervous. So I'm just turning the heat down a bit. It's quite a low heat. You don't want to do it too quickly, because more chance of you burning it, sticking to the bottom of the pan. So I'm just going to carry on with this, stirring like this, boiling fairly vigorously, as you'll see, and probably takes about 10 minutes. So at this moment, where are we time wise? That's us about 10 minutes into the process, so we'll come back shortly. So a few more minutes moved on, and basically nothing much happening really, other than the mixture's still boiling away. You'll see from the pan why I've got such a big pan. It just helps. Just stirring it, just helping things not stick to the bottom, and making sure I don't get splashed. You'll see I haven't added in the vanilla essence yet. You add that in nearer to the end. Not sure why, but that's what the recipe says. So sometimes you follow a recipe, sometimes you add a little bit. So a few more minutes on. Again, the mixture's starting to thicken slightly. You'll see it also starts to kind of change colour very slightly, starts to go a bit browner, a bit more golden, which you'll see it doing more of as well. The other thing I've done in the gap is got a jug with some cold water in it. Doesn't matter how much. This is just a test, so even if you use a thermometer and think it's at the right temperature, it's still worth testing, just to see that the tablet's going to set properly. So it's getting there. I did a quick temperature measure. It's up about 112 degrees at the moment, and you're trying to get it up to about 117, 118, and you'll see the differences once we start doing up there. I see that's getting a bit thicker, but we'll come back to it in a minute. So a few more minutes on, that's 24. What I'm just going to do is add in the vanilla essence. You just need to watch, because it does tend to splutter a bit when you put it in. So we're getting there. You'll see the colour changes slightly. I suppose also we're putting the vanilla essence in, but sometimes what's handy if you need to do something like go and get the vanilla essence out of the cupboard because you've forgotten it, what to do is turn the heat right down. Don't turn it off, but turn it right down. It just gives you a bit more time and less likelihood of things sticking to the bottom. This is what I did, so that's why it wasn't boiling quite so vigorously. You'll see it's starting to get a bit thicker. Maybe not see it, but you can see it on the back of the spoon. Temperature wise, again, things happen quite quickly when it's ready, so you kind of need to keep an eye on it. And if you're just doing it by eye, this is where you could start testing it, but I know it's not going to be ready quite yet just because I've done this often enough. So let me just do a quick temperature check with it. So you'll see, normally do this and stir it at the same time, so just hoping nothing burns. So you see up 95, 102, 104, 106. So getting there, I think it's probably about 114, 115 just now. Let me just do a quick stir, save it getting burnt on the bottom. I don't want any burnt stuff. Also helps the temperature probe check it. Obviously you could do this with two hands, and I'm trying to hold a camera with one of them. 116, 117, so we're kind of getting there. You can tell as well just by the colour. By the way, if you do get a slight burnt bit, you'll see it really dark. It's like burnt sugar suddenly appears. There's a few dots. Just keep stirring it. It'll kind of distribute it around. Yeah, you get a small amount of burnt sugar in the thing, but it actually doesn't take away from it's only if you really burn it, then it's a problem. So you'll see the consistency starting to change, and even in the bubbles. And what to do now, I turn the heat down, not off, just down, and then just take a small amount and spoon and dribble it into this cold water. Now again, normally I hold the jug up and do it. Again, back to stir, and what you're trying to do is just let that set in the cold water for a few minutes. Pour off the cold water, and then kind of pick it out. You'll see, does it form? You're trying to see whether it forms into a kind of reasonably firm ball. Does it go together? It's still a bit, yeah. And if it drops in a plate, there's a bit of a rigidness to it. You'll see it's kind of dropped in the plate there. It's probably not quite ready yet. So a bit more. I'm just going to get some more water, so I'll come back in a second. So again, quick clock check, so 20 minutes past. So you'll see starting to go browner, and I've got another jug of water just to do another test in a minute. So it's not far away now, and this is a bit where you just kind of need to watch how things go. Not a time for the phone to go or to get distracted, because you'll end up just with burnt sugar. Let's try and do a quick check on the temperature though. I think it should be fine. About 115, 116, 117. Once it's over 117, then you're kind of fine probably. I think officially kind of 118 is probably the right one for, and might have got a bit of burnt going on, but we'll soon see. So basically once you get to that, what you do is you turn the heat off and you stir, and you need to keep stirring for two things. One is there's heat in the bottom of the pan, and so it can still burn. And two, what you're trying to do is keep the mixture smooth. You'll see it's still bubbling away, so that's the heat still in the sugar in the bottom of the pan. So I'll keep stirring. This is the bit that I'll video mostly, just to show you what happens and make sure you see that this is the bit where it can all go wrong. So you just keep stirring. Doesn't matter how vigorously you stir, but it smooths down, stops bubbling, and you'll see that it's quite a smooth paste now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep stirring for another 2 or 3 minutes, so I'll come back. Okay, so you'll see there's a few minutes past. I have been stirring constantly. What you'll start to see is it starts to almost set around the edge of the pan, so you just keep scraping that back in, and you'll start to see kind of white traces almost in the tablet. That's getting to the stage where it's kind of going to start to set slightly. If you keep stirring for too long, then it becomes hard to take out the pan. So what I'm going to do now is 2 hands I need, unfortunately, and I'm going to pour it into the tin, all of it out, scrape as much as I can with a spoon, and then I'll show you once I've got it poured. I don't think I could do that with just one hand. Okay, so that's it now poured. There's only so much you can actually scrape out the pan before you start to get the setting. You'll see there's a slight kind of coloration on the top. That's just the more set tablet going into it, and it's no problem, no effect on the flavour or anything. Best thing to do is scrape the pan with a knife afterwards, put the excess on a plate, and it gives you something to taste before having to let the whole lot set. Pan washes very easily with hot water. You'll see I put the tray on a wooden board. This is because you're putting tablet in at 110 degrees, depends on your worktops, you need to protect them. What I tend to do now is I tend to move it on to the top of the cooker top, just to let it cool quicker, because it gets more air underneath it, but just watch, because obviously it's very hot. The one next to it is one I did earlier. In terms of scoring it, you have to let it cool to form a reasonable skin on top before you then can score through and mark it. This particular one's cut up into very small pieces. Normally I just cut it into 4 across the way and 4 up and down, and you get nice big slabs of tablet. I also wrap it in greaseproof paper. Gives it quite a good homemade look, which it is homemade, and it also keeps it fresher longer than just putting it into a plastic tub. So I'll show you some of the end result. So one of the things that can be tricky is actually getting out the tray. With these smaller pieces, that's actually okay, because you can prise one out and then you can work your way around and prise them all out. When you put it into bigger pieces, what I tend to do is put a wooden board over the top. First of all I flex the tray to try and loosen it slightly, put a tray over the top, and then turn it upside down and hit it against the worktop. Comes out cleanly sometimes, sometimes doesn't. You can then break it along the scoring that you've done and get reasonably nice pieces of tablet. You'll see this is some I made earlier. Because it's basically sugar and fat, it keeps very well. So you get nice pieces, and it's very tasty, very high in calories, so enjoy. So I started off this video mentioning that making this tablet for Kirsty and Alan's wedding next week. All the best, Kirsty and Alan, and hope your day goes fantastically well. See you soon.